wanted to put a video out to my family because there's some things I've discovered about about our immune system, and specifically dealing with the viruses, influenza viruses that we're dealing with right now, that I wanted to get to everybody because I feel like I've got the information and I want to share it. Basically, just give you some background. What happened to me is in September of 2018, I started developing a passion for learning and studying everything I could about human metabolism and the human endocrine system, specifically as it pertains to chronic disease and all-cause mortality, whether it be heart attack, diabetes, kidney failure, stroke, whatever else. Anyways, I've read, I feel like I've read more textbooks in the last almost 2 years than I did when I was in college. It's crazy. So I've been reading papers, research papers, been studying some lectures, medical lectures, and read several books. Anyways, to move on, the reason I'm making this video is because in my studies, I've come across a lot of information that actually, when I went back and dug through it, pertains, some of it, there's some things that pertain specifically, hang on, there's something on my screen I gotta get rid of. There's some things that pertain specifically to what's going on right now with the virus, and I wanted to kind of share it with you because I think it'll help. I shared it with my kids the other night at dinner, and I wanted to get out to the rest of the family. So here we go. I'm gonna try and get through it as fast as I can so this video doesn't last long. Or I can try, or you can speed it. I hit the button down below. You know how to do that, where you speed up the thing on so you can watch a 10-minute video in 5 minutes, talking really fast. So I'm gonna try and do that so you get through it. First of all, there's one unique thing I found out about this COVID-19 virus that they were finding in Wuhan when it first started, is that it is not heat resistant. So just a little tip on it. Because it's not heat resistant, what it means is basically the virus will die at temperatures above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's one of the reasons why the influenza virus in particular tends to be in the wintertime instead of the summertime, because in the summertime, especially in the near the equator, you're not going to have temperatures that allow the virus to survive unless it's in a human, living off in the human. So anything above 80 degrees, so if it sits on a countertop, hard surface, in a 72 degree room temperature, which is room temperature is below 80 degrees, yeah, they say it can survive up to 12 hours. That's the bad part. The one thing that you want to know about, though, is if it gets on your hands, for instance, it's only going to last 5 or 10 minutes because your body temperature is going to kill it off. Now, a lot can happen in those 5 or 10 minutes, so don't just relax on that. That's why I think it's still important to wash your hands all the time. But that kind of gives you an idea of why they're saying wash your hands with warm water. So if you use warm or hot water, you're going to have at least a better chance of that. So, you know, if there's not soap, if there's hot water you can get to, and you can scrub your hands with hot water. It's an idea. So here's really why I wanted to make this video, though, is because I wanted to list out some things that I've discovered in my studies that help your immune system, and specifically these are going to be things that help with this virus and the respiratory infection, because what COVID-19 is, it's an influenza virus that attacks the respiratory system. So we want to deal in that area. The first thing and the biggest thing on the list is vitamin D. There's a lot of vitamins and supplements that you can take, you know, vitamin C, zinc, all these other things, magnesium. But vitamin D is if I had to narrow down every supplement that I've been studying, somebody told me I could only take one supplement, it would be vitamin D. Specifically on this, vitamin D helps. They did well, here, let me show you this. And there was an article in the BMJ, British Medical Journal, in 2017 that showed a study that they did on vitamin D. And it was actually a double-blind placebo study. It was done on 10,933 patients using vitamin D supplementation. They found a statistically significant reduction in acute respiratory tract infections. So, and this virus is a respiratory tract infection. So that's why I'm really trying to promote the vitamin D from all my kids, everybody to take. This is the one we're taking. Here's the important thing about that is it needs to be D3 with K2. So this one says K2 with D3, but basically you want to make sure you're getting K2 with the D3, because if you just take a lot of D and you don't have K to go with it, your body ends up producing calcium and leaving it in your blood, and it builds up in your blood, and you don't want that. You want the K, because the K helps absorb the D into your system so your body can utilize it. Now, in particular, 3 things about vitamin D. One is it reduces the scope of acquired immune response. I'm going to go over that in a second. The other one is it helps with the regeneration of the epithelial barrier. The epithelial barrier is basically your skin, the mucus lining in your stomach, and the mucus lining in your lungs, because it's basically the first defense against bacteria and viruses. So that's the first line of defense. Vitamin D helps regenerate that. Vitamin D also helps with the maturation of the immune cells, the lymphocytes and things like that. Now, going back to that first point I made, that it helps it actually reduces the scope of the acquired immune response. Now, here's what I mean by that. And this is interesting when you look at how this virus attacks people. One of the biggest concerns that happens is, especially with older people and immune compromised people, is that they're having trouble with the respiratory infection component, meaning that they're developing what's called ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. It's where the lungs start straining and having a hard time exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide. Here's basically how it works. So I'm gonna geek out on you just for a second. Bear with me. So if you got the bronchial tubes coming in here, they come down and they split up into they keep splitting off smaller and smaller, and then at the very ends in your lungs there's these things called alveoli. Okay, and in the alveoli there's blood vessels and capillaries that run along these things that carry blood. This is where the exchange of oxygen. So you breathe in, and oxygen is exchanged over to your blood, and then from the blood comes back into the alveoli the CO2 that you breathe out. So there's this oxygen CO2 exchange that's happening in the alveoli. That's what breathing is. Well, what happens with the virus is the virus comes in and attacks in the alveoli, in your lungs, right? And when it does that, it starts to create a inflammation in that area. It starts to create inflammation in the areas where it's attacking. Here's the problem, though. What happens with acute respiratory distress syndrome is the body also reacts. So the virus is coming to attack and cause this, but the body reacts by trying to defend itself. So the body sends extra inflammatory fluids to the area of disturbance. Same thing that happens if you twist your ankle. Your ankle swells. Why does it swell? Because your body's sending extra fluid to that area with things that help that area heal and help the body start the healing process. So now you're getting this extra fluid that's being rushed into this area, and the alveoli start becoming full of fluid, which puts a strain on the oxygen to CO2 exchange that's happening between the alveoli and the blood. That causes the acute respiratory distress syndrome. Vitamin D, the reason why vitamin D works so well with this is because it reduces the scope of this amount of fluid that's going to the alveoli, and therefore helps people not have the tendency to go to to end up in the extreme position of the ARDS. So that's just a quick thing on vitamin D that I discovered that I think is important to know. The other thing, so here's let's move on. The next one is rest and sleep. The better you rest, the better you're sleeping, the better your immune system's going to be. Fresh air and sunshine. Number 3 I got up here is fresh air and sunshine. Sunshine specifically because your body actually makes its own vitamin D, but it needs sunlight to make it. So the sunlight comes in, hits your skin, The better your cholesterol is, the more cholesterol you have, the better the sunlight, the better your body can utilize that sunlight to make vitamin D. So you get a combination of sunlight and good cholesterol, and you're going to have a higher amount of natural vitamin D. So getting some good sunshine, getting fresh air, another thing is going to help. Number 4, reduce carbohydrates and sugars. This is another important one. So the reason I say carbohydrates, well, I could just say carbohydrates. A carbohydrate is nothing but a carbon molecule with a bunch of glucose molecules attached to it. So once you ingest a starchy carbohydrate, whether it be rice, bread, cereals, granola, oatmeal, whatever it is, it basically breaks down to glucose molecules, and it's the same. It's the effect on the body is the same or actually worse than sugar, and the effect is inflammation. Any starchy carbohydrates or sugars that spike insulin or have a glycemic index higher than 30 or 40 are gonna tend to create inflammation in your body. Inflammation is what you don't want when you're trying to have your immune system at its best. In fact, there was a study that was done at Yale University in 2019. I'm gonna read you just a summary of some of the study. There was a study done on using a high-fat, low-carb diet to help people become immune to influenza and influenza viruses. So I'll read it to you. In research conducted by trainees and lead scientists at Yale Universities, a low-carb, high-fat ketogenic diet was found to release immune system cells that produce mucus cells in the linings of the lungs, stopping the flu virus in its tracks. They showed that mice fed a ketogenic diet and infected with the influenza virus had a higher survival rate than mice on a high-carb normal diet. So the mice with the high-fat, low-carb diet had a higher survival rate when infected with the virus, the influenza virus, than the mice eating the normal standard American diet, which is high-carb, low-fat. Specifically, the researchers found that the ketogenic diet triggered the release of gamma delta T cells, immune system cells that produce mucus in the cell linings of the lung, while the high carbohydrate diet did not. So the T cells, it produces the T cells is what causes it. So this study shows that the way the body burns fat to produce ketone bodies from the food we eat can fuel the immune system to fight flu infection. Interesting study. You can look it up. Just Google 2019 Yale study on ketogenic diet and influenza virus. Look it up and read it. I think it's a really good read, important. Okay, so I'll move on. The fifth one I have on here is one that probably nobody needs to hear because I don't think any of y'all do this. Smoking. If you're a smoker, that's not a good thing when you're trying to fight a respiratory infection. So if smokers need to cut back or cut it out or something, if they really want to have a strong ability to fight respiratory infections. Number 6, and this one's going to be one that's a little strange for people to swallow, but believe it or not, the better and higher your cholesterol is, the better you're going to fight infections, and the better you're going to so over the last 30 years, there's been multitudes of studies that have shown that statistically, people with higher cholesterol, especially older people with higher cholesterol, have a lower chance of all-cause mortality than people with low cholesterol. They have the people with high cholesterol stand a better chance of not developing Alzheimer's. The low cholesterol groups are going to be the groups that tend to develop Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's disease, all kinds of issues like that are going to be are statistically are higher in people with lower cholesterol. So specifically, as far as the immune system goes, having a better or healthier or higher cholesterol is going to give you again another notch in your belt that keeps your immune system at its peak. So my thing is, if you're on cholesterol medicines, if you're on statins right now that are suppressing your cholesterol, it might be wise to go ahead and get off of those. I would get off forever, but that's me. I would get off of those maybe for the next 2 or 3 months so that you can get your cholesterol levels back up and let more natural vitamin D happen in your body and help your immune system, help your mental skills. Number 7, if you have high blood pressure and you happen, there's 3 types of high blood pressure medicines. There's beta blockers, there's ACE inhibitors, and there's ARBs, which are angiotensin II receptor blockers. They all have their downfalls, but specifically when it comes to respiratory infections, if you happen to be on an ARB, which is a angiotensin II receptor blocker, and you can look up the drug. If you're on one, look it up and see what's the chemistry behind it, and it'll describe it as one of those 3 I just described. If it is an ARB you're on, I would say that talk to your doctor or do whatever, see if you can get off of that, at least for the next 2 or 3 months or longer. Here's why. ARBs, where'd I put my paper? Here it is. ARBs have certain side effects. Here's the specific side effects of ARBs, which isn't the side effects so much of ACEs and beta blockers. ARBs, the side effects are cough, flu-like symptoms, sinus infections, bronchitis, upper respiratory tract infections. So if you're taking a medicine that's already putting you at high risk for respiratory infection, and you're in a time frame when you're trying to at least keep yourself from getting one, that's why I say if you can get off of those for now, that'd be good too. The last one I have on here is omega-3s. Again, we're going back to healthy fats. Any healthy fat, it's going to help your body's immune system because all the fat soluble vitamins that do help with your immune system need healthy fat to operate. So that's it. I just wanted to end it there. We're all going to get through this. It's just a matter of dealing with it. And I mean, I think, for the most part, we're gonna get sick. Maybe some of us will get sick, some of us won't. But I just think if we be smart about being healthy when we do get contaminated, we'll do okay. All right, see ya.